I am a nutritionist and recently accepted a job that pays 3 times the market rate. Such a windfall made me suspect that the employer might have some special requirements. However, blinded by the money and overly confident, I believed I could handle it without any issues. But on the very first night after moving into the employer's house, something unexpected happened. While preparing dinner, I felt a pair of eyes staring intently at my back. Turning around, I saw Jack leaning casually against the doorframe. He had changed into loungewear, his partially open shirt revealing a well-toned chest, and his chiseled face made me blush instantly.
Oh, hi, Mr. Smith. Can I help you with something?
Just checking in. Smells great in here.
Realizing my lapse, I quickly turned back to my work, my heart racing and my mind in a daze.
Ah!
The knife slipped and cut my finger. Before I could react, my finger was enveloped in warmth. It was Jack. He put my finger in his mouth, his gaze ambiguous.
What are you doing?
Sorry, it was instinct.
He said, licking his lips with a voice thick with temptation, though his innocent expression made it hard to get angry.
Mr. Smith, there's no need for you to help here. The kitchen is smoky, please wait outside.
Just that brief contact left me hot-headed and weak-kneed. Realizing my own loss of composure, I splashed cold water on my face to calm down and finished preparing dinner. Jack didn't come down for dinner. It seemed the couple's relationship wasn't very good, but it wasn't my place to ask.
Alice, join me for dinner. It's always nice to have company.
The hostess, Emily, was quite warm and invited me to join her for dinner, chatting about everyday life with a genuine love for it. For a moment, I felt sorry for her. In the following days, Jack often found ways to be alone with me, occasionally stirring up a bit of flirtation. However, I remained clear-headed and didn't cross any lines. Until one time, Emily went back to her parents' home for some reason. As soon as she left, Jack cornered me against the wall.
Alice, we need to talk.
Jack was strong. He lifted my hands above my head with one hand, while the other roamed restlessly over my body.
Mr. Smith, please respect yourself.
Don't move, or I might really lose control.
He leaned in to plant a light kiss on my forehead.
Alice, be my girlfriend.
Mr. Smith, your wife is still expecting.
I firmly rejected him. But he seemed unconcerned about Emily, pressing his body against mine, his other hand gripping my chin. His intense, heated kiss overwhelmed me, leaving me breathless. My body went limp, my mind foggy, nearly succumbing to the moment. It wasn't until his cool hand slipped under my clothes that I snapped back to reality, biting down hard.
Are you a dog?
He winced in pain, pinching my waist in retaliation. For the first time, I felt trapped with no way out. I was terrified. The thought of the scandal that would follow if this came to light, and perhaps my resentment towards Jack for having both a wife and a child on the way, made tears stream down my face uncontrollably.
I was too impulsive. But after you hear the secret, you might not think the same way.
Jack seemed unconcerned about Emily, pressing his body against mine, his other hand gripping my chin. His intense, heated kiss overwhelmed me, leaving me breathless. My body went limp, my mind foggy, nearly succumbing to the moment. It wasn't until his cool hand slipped under my clothes that I snapped back to reality, biting down hard. The taste of iron filled my mouth.
Are you a dog?
Jack winced in pain, pinching my waist in retaliation. For the first time, I felt trapped with no way out. I was terrified. The thought of the scandal that would follow if this came to light, and perhaps my resentment towards Jack for having both a wife and a child on the way made tears stream down my face uncontrollably.
I was too impulsive. But after you hear this secret, you might not think the same way.
Jack's heated kiss overwhelmed Alice, leaving her breathless. She felt her body go limp, her mind foggy, nearly succumbing to the moment.
Jack, stop!
It wasn't until his cool hand slipped under her clothes that Alice snapped back to reality, biting down hard. The taste of iron filled her mouth.
Are you a dog?
Jack winced in pain, pinching Alice's waist in retaliation.
Let me go, Jack. This isn't right.
For the first time, Alice felt truly trapped. The thought of the scandal that would follow, and her resentment towards Jack for having both a wife and a child on the way, made tears stream down her face uncontrollably.
I was too impulsive. But after you hear the secret, you might not think the same way.
That day, the guest bathroom at home was clogged, and I was in a hurry, so I went straight to Emily's bedroom bathroom. Then, I found a used sanitary pad in the trash can. Could it be that the housekeeper also uses this bathroom? No, the housekeeper is older and wouldn't need it. This is Emily's room. How could a pregnant woman need such things? Unless...
What are you doing in my room?
Just as I was closing the bathroom door, Emily suddenly came in and questioned me.
The guest bathroom is broken, so I came here.
Have you been in there?
No, not yet. I was just about to.
Emily's expression showed she didn't quite believe me. I took the chance to quickly leave the room before she could press further. Since I wasn't sure about the truth, I didn't want to cause a scene and embarrass everyone involved. So, I started observing Emily closely over the next few days. If she was indeed faking her pregnancy, then Jack was being deceived. That afternoon, I saw a stranger in the villa. The woman was dressed fashionably, but her clothes didn't fit well, and she was loudly asking Emily for a sanitary pad. Her behavior was too unusual, making me more suspicious.
Ms. Johnson, was that woman your friend?
Yes, why? She came over despite her period, just to bother me.
I nodded, not asking further. Honestly, people's desires grow over time. I increasingly wanted to take Emily's place. Discovering the sanitary pad in Emily's bathroom was a clue I couldn't ignore. I continued to secretly observe Emily over the next few days. She hid it well. But I still saw it. Emily had ordered several packs of sanitary pads online. I also sneaked into her bathroom again and found used sanitary pads several times. It seemed that woman was a decoy Emily had brought in. Emily probably never imagined I would be so persistent. To avoid alerting her, I arranged to meet Jack at a restaurant outside, planning to expose Emily's secret.
How could a pregnant woman need those things?
My brother and sister-in-law are very loving, and they lack nothing here. She has no reason to deceive my brother about the baby.
Maybe she's faking it, just like you.
Alice. I know you're feeling wronged, but you can't defame an innocent woman by lying.
I knew I had no solid evidence, so I just stuck out my tongue. But I didn't give up. Maybe it was a woman's intuition, but I felt something was off about Emily. Jack and I had a big fight over this. Emily found out too.
Alice, do you think I'm faking my pregnancy?
Facing Emily alone, I felt a bit panicked. Without concrete evidence, gossiping behind someone's back felt unethical. I was still thinking about how to explain and keep my job when Emily spoke.
Do you really think I know nothing about your affair?
Hearing those words, my mind went blank and I felt a rush of blood. Emily didn't say much, she just gave me a cold look before turning away, exuding an air of authority.
How much does she know? Did she know about my relationship with Jack? Or did she also know about Jack pretending to be his brother?
If it was the former, my job was over. If it was the latter, does that mean I no longer need to hide? But Emily's actions were always unpredictable. These past few days, I've been on edge, and my interactions with Jack have decreased. Yet Emily acted as if nothing had happened, eating and drinking as usual, with no intention of exposing me.
Honey, can you pick up my prenatal checkup results after work today?
Ms. Johnson, let me go for you.
Only to receive a warning look from Jack.
Don't worry, Ms. Johnson. I'll make sure to bring your results back intact.
All right, thank you.
Emily said with a smile that made me uneasy. I felt like I was walking into a trap. But with Jack watching and having volunteered myself, I had no choice but to go. At the hospital, I received an empty envelope. I repeatedly confirmed with the doctors, and they all said I hadn't taken the wrong one. I knew the consequences of this.
Emily, you're not expecting, are you? You haven't even had a checkup.
Without the checkup results, Jack would think I had tampered with them.
Yes, didn't you already guess that?
Unfortunately, I didn't have time to record it. When I tried to get more out of her, Emily refused to say another word.
Alice, I know you have some charm and skills, but if you think you can take something from me, you should think again.
Emily said before hanging up. I quickly called Jack and repeated Emily's words verbatim.
Jack, she admitted it herself.
Alice, stop it. That hospital was personally chosen by my brother.
But she admitted it herself. She's not expecting and hasn't had a checkup. The report she asked me to get was empty.
I was emotional, trying to prove I wasn't lying. Then I heard Jack sigh.
Alice, I've been honest with you about my situation with Emily. If you can't accept it, I'll let you go.
I felt a chill in my limbs. I realized too late that I had fallen into a trap. Emily's goal was to drive a wedge between Jack and me, allowing her to gain both fame and fortune. Once I understood, I calmed down. For Jack, I couldn't lose.
I accidentally lost the report, but the hospital should have records. Ms. Johnson, can you contact the doctor to print another copy?
Since she wasn't expecting, the report couldn't be printed. You have your tricks, but I'm not a fool. Because I admitted my mistake, Jack's attitude softened considerably. In our conversation, I learned that Jack had never accompanied Emily to the hospital or seen any checkup reports. There was definitely something fishy going on. But this time, I didn't alert anyone and waited for Emily's next move. A few days passed, and just when I thought Emily couldn't produce the checkup report, she handed over an A4-sized paper with a baby's ultrasound image. Black and white, it was undoubtedly Emily's. This situation left me confused. If she wasn't expecting, how did she get the checkup report? Had I really been wrong? My previous actions weren't entirely in vain.
Serious, Emily, when is your next checkup appointment?
Emily's reluctance was palpable, making me secretly pleased. The day of Emily's next checkup arrived quickly.
Firm, I've already made an appointment with the doctor for you. We'll go directly to Peace Hospital.
Stunned, Peace Hospital? But I've always been going to the other hospital. If we suddenly change hospitals, how will the doctor know my situation?
Firm, you can bring your previous reports.
I quietly listened from the side, sensing Jack had coordinated something with the new doctor. Suddenly changing hospitals would surely expose her.
Crying, making a scene. Jack, do you also think I'm pretending about my pregnancy? We've been married for so many years, and you don't trust me? You accompanied me to the hospital initially. Have you forgotten what the doctor said?
The nanny, soft-hearted, chimed in.
Hopeful. Yes, Mr. Smith, you know what kind of person Miss Johnson is. Too much stress can harm the baby.
The nanny glanced at Jack, then tried to console Emily.
Friendly. It's just a change of hospital. Mr. Smith is considering your safety. He loves you. Don't be too sensitive.
The nanny gave me a look, hoping I'd support her.
Accusatory. Alice, do you think Jack has been seduced by some woman outside? Is that why he's trying to make things difficult for me, changing hospitals and doctors, and harming my baby?
Her words were sharp and accusatory, indirectly accusing me. I glared at her, knowing it wasn't the right time to speak. Emily and Jack were at an impasse.
Determined. Fine, I'll change hospitals. Jack, if you don't trust me, that's fine. If the checkup at Peace Hospital shows nothing wrong, we'll divorce immediately.
Hesitant, divorce?
Serious, yes, divorce. I can't tolerate any doubt in my relationship.
Apologetic, I'm sorry, I was just worried about you. If you don't want to change doctors, we'll go to the original hospital.
I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palms. Unfortunately, Jack didn't believe me. But without solid evidence, his disbelief was understandable. They didn't take me to the hospital. When Jack returned, he spoke directly.
Impatient, the doctor said there's no way to fake it.
Did you go in with her for the checkup?
No. Stop making a fuss. Once she has the baby, I'll reveal the truth immediately.
I agreed, thinking I was just being too impatient. But that day, while grocery shopping, I found myself at that hospital by chance. And I happened to run into Emily and that doctor. I saw Emily first and then followed her here. Emily had arranged to meet that doctor in a rarely used stairwell.
Dr. Brown, thank you for what you did that day.
Emily pulled a card from her bag and slipped it into Dr. Brown's pocket.
This is a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it.
It's my duty.
This sort of thing seemed to be a regular occurrence for them. Dr. Brown took the card with practiced ease, without a hint of hesitation. I took out my phone, intending to capture this scene. But they were very alert. Emily suddenly turned her head, just as I raised my phone.
What are you doing here? Caught eavesdropping, I shivered in fear. I quickly shoved my phone back into my bag and hurried away. It wasn't until I had run out of the hospital that I regretted it. Shouldn't they be the ones feeling nervous and scared? Why did I run? Especially regretting that I didn't take a single photo. Such a rare opportunity, and I missed it.
When I got home, Emily had already changed her clothes and was waiting in the living room.
Where's your phone?
She must have thought I had some concrete evidence.
Emily, since you're not expecting, why don't you come clean with Jack? I see your feelings for Jack are lukewarm at best. Why make things difficult for yourself?
I don't feel it's difficult at all. On the contrary, you seem eager to marry into wealth, don't you?
Her words hit a sore spot, and my heart tightened.
We don't have any irreconcilable differences. Why don't we cooperate? I can turn a blind eye to your affairs. Besides, although this is a common practice in your industry, if it gets exposed, you won't be able to continue, right? Now that Jack has dismissed his suspicions about me, are you sure you want to risk everything?
Emily stared at me, half threatening, half tempting.
Has he really dismissed them? Human nature is such that once the seed of doubt is planted, it will grow, however slowly. Moreover, Jack wasn't Emily's original husband.
To continue my battle with Emily, I secretly sought out the housekeeper to inquire about her past. I learned that Emily came from a modest background and met her husband in college, which was her ticket to a better life.
That's all I know. Emily rarely talks about her family. Maybe only her husband knows.
From the housekeeper's words, I realized that Emily was aware of Jack's brother's accident. I suddenly felt a bit sorry for Emily. Kept in the dark by everyone, once the child was born, she would be abandoned by all. But this couldn't be a reason to stop me and Jack. If evidence was lacking, I would find it. I secretly arranged to meet Dr. Brown. Someone so money-driven might spill something useful. But when the appointed time came, he was nowhere to be seen. I couldn't even reach him by phone. I went to the hospital, only to be told that Dr. Brown had taken several days off, supposedly due to some family matters. I had a feeling things weren't that simple, but I was stuck at this point with no way forward. Just when I thought this matter would remain at an impasse, two people arrived, causing Emily to completely break down. The visitors were Emily's parents. When I arrived at the villa, I learned Emily had locked herself in her room after a huge argument with them.
How did she change so much after becoming pregnant?
Emily's parents were worried. She had been refusing their visits and even spoke of cutting ties with the family.
We're really worried. No matter how much she resists, we had to come and see her.
Mr. Johnson, smoking a cigarette, looked even angrier seeing his wife's humble demeanor.
How did she become more like her sister? We treated her well, but she turned out to be so ungrateful.
Think about it, from childhood to now, she never suffered. We don't ask for much gratitude, but at least seeing us isn't too much to ask, right?
From their words, I picked up on a key piece of information. Emily had a sister. Emily had a sister?
Yes, they're twins. Times were tough back then, but we still cut back on our own food to raise them.
Emily was always sensible, ambitious, and even got into college. But her sister was different, always competing, never satisfied, and later.
Even Mr. Johnson sighed deeply. What happened later?
Later, not long after Emily's husband had an accident, her sister ran away from home and hasn't been found since.
For some reason, my heart sank, and I instinctively looked towards the bedroom on the second floor. Did Emily's personality change after her sister ran away?
Now that you mention it, yes. Does Emily know something? She always doted on her sister. Could it be?
Emily still didn't choose to meet her parents. After sending the two elders away, I waited anxiously for Jack to come home. This matter needed to be brought to his attention. If the person in the bedroom was the sister, then where was the real Emily? No wonder the pregnancy was fake. Perhaps the real Emily was indeed expecting. While waiting for Jack, I was on edge. Fortunately, the villa's soundproofing was excellent, and Emily didn't hear her parents' conversation. Emily came out, looking down at me from the second floor, her eyes cold and sinister.
What did my parents say to you?
Nothing much, just some family talk about how ungrateful you are. Emily didn't show any reaction. She just came down, grabbed an apple and a fruit knife, and went back upstairs. When Jack came home from work, I pulled him into my room and recounted the conversation with Emily's parents word for word.
Now that you mention it, something does seem off. At first, we thought it was just because of the pregnancy.
Living someone else's life is tough. Since Emily is also an imposter, we should confront her.
Just as I finished speaking, the bedroom door was slammed open. Emily walked in, holding a knife with blood on it. I gasped.
Emily's face was splattered with blood, and under the night light, her skin looked ghostly pale. At that moment, Emily looked like a vengeful spirit, her expression twisted and terrifying.
Ha ha ha, so that's how it is.
Emily's laugh was manic. She raised her hand, pointing a knife at Jack.
You're a fraud!
It seemed she had heard our entire conversation. Instinctively, I backed up to the window, and Jack stepped in front of me to shield me.
You're not Emily. Where is she?
You have no right to ask me that. Aren't you also not Jack?
Emily laughed hysterically, pulling out a fake pregnancy belly from under her clothes and tossing it onto the bed.
This piece of junk has exhausted me.
So her pregnancy was fake.
If I had known you weren't Jack, I wouldn't have gone through all this trouble. It's all your fault. Michael!
Emily advanced step by step, her eyes cold.
Let me tell you, my name is Hannah, the so-called ungrateful and disobedient sister.
Calm down. We can talk this out.
Michael slowly retreated. But we were already by the window, and a few steps back left us with nowhere to go.
Calm? I am very calm right now.
Hannah sneered, as if mocking herself.
Why do you think it is? Emily and I were born at the same time, yet our lives turned out so differently. She was always the center of attention, while I was the bad example. She went to college, I didn't even finish high school. She became a company executive, I remained an intern. She married into a wealthy family, I couldn't even get a boyfriend. Why?
Listening to Hannah's grievances, I found it laughable.
That's because you didn't work hard and brought it upon yourself.
You're lying. They were biased. It was unfair.
If I hadn't spoken with Hannah's parents before, I might have believed they neglected her. But the truth was quite the opposite. Because Hannah was born later and was weaker, they spent most of their time caring for her. Emily also loved her sister dearly. Perhaps because the family's focus was always on Hannah, she grew up thinking everything was rightfully hers.
So you harmed Emily?
Yes.
Hannah smiled as she spoke.
Do you think she was stupid? I told her I had nowhere to go, and she wanted to show off her marriage by taking me in. Even in death, she wanted to humiliate me.
I realized Hannah's mind was twisted.
I originally planned to fake a loss, but that Jack never helped me, always demanding money like a leech. And you too, secretly mocking me for losing my man. Too bad you mocked the wrong person. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten involved before Emily had her baby. None of you are good people. You all deserve to be punished.
Hannah charged at Michael, aiming the knife at his heart.
Call the police!
Michael and Hannah struggled. Though he was a man, facing a desperate Hannah left him at a disadvantage. Knowing I couldn't help, I quickly ran out. In the living room, I found the maid lying motionless. Without wasting time, I called the police and alerted the villa's security. Hannah was eventually subdued, and Michael was injured. With Hannah's capture, the truth came to light. According to the timeline, Hannah's disappearance and Emily's tragic end coincided with Jack's incident.
Hannah had argued with her family and sought Emily's help, only to take her life when she least expected it, burying her in the villa's backyard.
Emily was expecting.
Yes, forcing Hannah to fake a pregnancy every month.
While relieved that Jack was distant, Hannah sought a solution. She met Dr. Brown.
Dr. Brown wasn't a good person either. Knowing Hannah's loss meant no more benefits, he kept delaying things.
What happened to Dr. Brown?
He went back to his hometown, but he'll never return.
Michael and I were silent, understanding Dr. Brown had likely met a grim fate.
It's all your fault. If it weren't for you, my plan would have been flawless.
She's beyond help.
Hannah was taken into custody with irrefutable evidence and her own confession. We unearthed Emily's remains in the villa's backyard. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson rushed over, looking significantly aged. Hand in hand, they looked at the unearthed remains, crying uncontrollably.
I'm sorry. I had no idea about any of this.
No one could have foreseen such events. They are the ones who suffer the most.
Let's just consider it our karma, paying for past lives' sins.
Michael planned to give the elderly couple some compensation, but they refused.
You are victims too. Perhaps Jack's fate is also tied to her.
Only he knew how much it hurt to say those words. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson took Emily's ashes without requesting a funeral, intending to take her back to their hometown. Michael didn't stop them. After arranging everything, Emily's story finally came to an end. And I, as I had hoped, became Michael's official girlfriend. This incident cast a long shadow over us, prompting Michael to buy a new villa with a different layout. Our relationship remained stable until we got married and had children.
Did you plan this all along to avoid paying my wages?
There's no way to pay that. Emily's child was never born.
Our smiles froze. We exchanged glances, falling silent.
Shall we visit Emily?
Sure.
But we couldn't reach Emily's parents, so the plan fell through. I sighed, gently touching my growing belly, hoping for a peaceful life for myself and my child.